At Chipotle, we also have a playlist. Guacamole as it's being hand mashed, the sizzle of adobo chicken on the grill, the chopping of onions and cilantro. We call our playlist Real. Order now. Chipotle, for real.
The Campus for Hope. It's the latest big splash effort to address homelessness in our valley. And, well, they got $200 million in private and public funds already to build a resource center. But it's already spawned controversy, and neighbors have filed a lawsuit to stop it. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, Fox 5's Jacqueline Schultz gives us the latest on the Campus for Hope project and what people on all sides of the equation are saying about it. It's Monday, July 14th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. So, Jacqueline, why is the need for the Campus for Hope so pressing? You know, we've got the courtyard downtown currently filling in some gaps, right?
Oh, David, since the pandemic, we just see it. You can't escape it no matter where you live, whether you're in Henderson, Summerlin, North Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We see homeless everywhere. I was looking up some statistics. So in 2024, they did a census on one night, and on any given night, there's about 7,900 people who are homeless on any given night. And there's only about 4,300 beds in the valley, and most of them were full. So you can imagine how many thousands of people on any given night don't have a place to go, don't have a place to stay.
And that's just basic shelter is what you're talking about. I mean, these aren't like luxury hotel beds. These are sometimes like many stacked in one room or even without walls, from what I understand.
They might be living in their cars.
Yeah.
And so many families, we have an eviction crisis, we have a housing crisis, and there's just not enough resources and not enough different kinds of resources to meet different types of needs. If somebody has extreme mental illness, even putting them in some place like the courtyard, it's not equipped enough for somebody with special medical needs. They just built a crisis stabilization facility in the valley, and that only has about 50 beds. There needs to be a number of others, centers for families, centers for seniors. There's so many different homeless people with needs that the courtyard, it will take everybody, but doesn't mean it's the best fit for everybody. I talked to a guy who, we interviewed him a few years ago, and he was a business owner. He called me a few months ago. He fell on hard times. He's homeless. He is now staying at Catholic Charities, and he said, I wanted to give you a perspective of what it's like. I'm obeying the rules. I'm not camping on the streets, but it's really a challenge. I can only bring every single night with me a backpack. That's the only thing. Yeah, or he's staying at Catholic Charities right now.
Right, which is kind of across the way.
Yeah. He's only carrying a backpack every day, and all it is a place to sleep. Mm-hmm. And he goes to the library and he spends hours every day. No restaurant's going to let him into somewhere to use the restroom. He can't stay at the shelter during the daytime. So all he can do is just sit in the street or sit in a park and use the restroom or use the facilities wherever he can. And he said, think of it from my perspective. Wouldn't you rather pitch a tent or stay somewhere rather than have no privacy, and maybe your things may or may not be with you the next day? When I've talked to a lot of people who are homeless, they want to keep their things. They want some privacy. They want some semblance of decency. And that's the challenge with facilities like the courtyard, like some other shelters en masse, is it's bunk beds. And the Campus for Hope, there will be dorm-like setups and setups for families. And that gives people a little more comfort, a little more space. And maybe, just maybe, people who are on the streets right now, who don't like a setup like the courtyard, like Catholic Charities, maybe they would prefer Campus for Hope. And
so what does Campus of Hope then bring to the table that it's getting all the attention and energy right now?
So it would have about 900 beds. The model is something called transitional housing. So the courtyard is considered emergency housing. Anybody can walk up off the street and ask for a bed and they'll be given services. Transitional housing, what it does, it's that kind of step from emergency housing to you want someplace where you can get social services, get resources, try to get in a place where then you can get into temporary housing. Maybe you need a job, maybe you need permanent housing, maybe you need drug counseling, maybe you need resources for children. It's meant to be kind of a one-stop shop, as they call it, with all the social services in one facility. So the families, seniors or homeless who probably don't have cars or resources to go all over town, they can all get what they need right there. I've had lengthy discussions with the new CEO of the Campus for Hope and the partners and the Resort Association, who has been instrumental in putting this together. They describe it as an apartment complex type scenario with various resources on a site. If you can imagine, like a college campus, there's housing, there's dining halls, there's rec centers, there's classrooms. It'd be a campus setting.
I got to say, Jacqueline, when the courtyard itself was being proposed, they did make a number of community presentations, presumably to get buy-in, and I was there for most of them. 100%, the courtyard used almost exactly the same language that you're using now for the Campus of Hope. Now, the courtyard, of course, is the big facility that is north of the downtown Fremont Street area. They have a number of different buildings over there. But, they said this will be a one-stop shop. They use that same exact language. They said people can get their services here all at one time. They didn't talk about apartments, but they did say that it was based on the San Antonio model called Haven for Hope. And I'm hearing in your reporting that the Campus for Hope that we're talking about today is also directly based on the Haven for Hope. And in fact, they have hired one of the, principal directors of Haven for Hope in San Antonio, Texas, to run the one here. So I just wonder, the city of Las Vegas has already put tens of millions of dollars into the courtyard. What's going to make this one work? Or are they even looking at the failures of the courtyard to learn from it?
Yeah, and that's the question that a lot of residents have is, even though the Campus for Hope is saying we won't take anybody off the street, we're going to have a lot of security, how do you communicate that to the public at large or to people who are desperate at large? I've been doing stories on the Campus for Hope, and I kid you not, we are getting calls and emails into our newsroom. Where is it? Can I go? People are that desperate that they're looking for resources. Anytime we do a story about affordable housing, a new affordable housing center that's opening up for seniors, even if it's a year or so away from being finished, people are desperate and they're showing up. And so that is a challenge that the Campus for Hope is going to address. They can control what's within their walls and on the perimeter, but what's the messaging from the outside? And that's the concern these residents have.
Yeah. Now, let's just, for our listeners, get a sense of where the Campus for Hope, this $200 million capital project, is being proposed. What part of town and whose jurisdiction will it physically be located in?
So it's on Charleston and Jones. It's on a big plot of land. That's the Southern Nevada Mental Health Campus. It's state-owned. It has state facilities for mental health. Right now, there's children, there's teenagers there. There's also prisoners who need mental services there. It's called a forensic facility.
So you've reported on these neighbors in the area who are opposed, some who have filed a lawsuit. What are the neighbors saying? Which neighbors and why are they so against this project?
So they were very much blindsided by this going into their neighborhood. So I've been in discussion with some of the leadership, the Resorts Association, and other people who have been leading the charge and the nonprofit that was created to bring Campus for Hope here in the Valley. And they had been looking for months for a 20-some acre plot of land. They were looking for a good plot of land to house a massive facility that could have housing and resources. They were looking in different parts of the valley. And then they settled and announced in early January this plot of land off of Charleston and Jones. That's the mental health facility. And it did not go through the typical process that we see in various city projects, county projects, where residents are notified. There's massive studies. It's state land, and it's a state project, and it was greenlighted in a very different way. The board and the project submitted the application to the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Governor Lombardo signed off on it. And so this went through a completely different process for approval than residents are typically used to. And so essentially, for months, they've been given assurances as to what the project will be. And they feel like they're being told no matter what's coming, accept it.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino Ciao, a new kind of flavored sparkling water. The kind made with real fruit juice, a pinch of Sicilian salt, and the sparkle of the Italian sun. With no added sugar and just 10 or less calories per can, enjoy. With love, from Italy. By San Pellegrino Ciao now.
Put us in a box. Go ahead. That just gives us something to break out of. Because the next generation 2025 GMC Terrain Elevation is raising the standard of what comes standard. As far as expectations go, why meet them when you can shatter them? What we choose to challenge, we challenge completely. We are professional grade. Visit gmc.com to learn more.
I guess we should just make real clear who the various players are. When you say the resorts, these are the folks from the Strip, basically. Maybe also Stations Casino, I think, might be involved in it. Is that right, Jacqueline? Is Stations one of them?
So there's a nonprofit board that's overseeing the project. Wynn, MGM Resorts, Caesars Entertainment, we're all founding members. The Nevada Resort Association is part of the group. And then there's a number of other stakeholders from city, county, various leadership in there as well as part of the nonprofit. So they're all the decision makers here.
Okay, so that's this nonprofit that is going to be responsible for Campus for Hope. The Resort Association put in $100 million. The state of Nevada did some matching for another $100 million to get the thing built. So the $200 million for it to be built. And then the neighbors you're talking to are people who live nearby. What are their specific concerns? And did you find any neighbors around there who are actually in support of the project?
There are so many neighbors overwhelmingly concerned. There are others who are in support of it too. They say we need somewhere for them to go, for people who are homeless to go. We need solutions. But many people in the area are very vocally opposed. They don't want it there. They want to see the proof of traffic studies, impact studies. They want to know if this is a good location and what other locations have been vetted. And because this went through a completely different process than that is subject to public disclosure, they don't have those answers. And they say they moved into the neighborhood knowing what was there. They didn't move into the neighborhood knowing what was coming. And this is a pretty big project.
Yeah, I mean, 22-acre project is definitely no small potatoes. So aside from the process of not being included and not being kind of told ahead of time, what specifically do these neighbors seem to be concerned about?
Yeah, and that is going to be the challenge for this project, if it is built there or anywhere else, is the messaging. People say when people are desperate, they're looking for help, they're not going to necessarily go on the phone go to the internet and say, is this a place that's going to accept me? They might just get in their car and drive and head there or walk there. So a lot of people are afraid that this is going to be just to draw to people in the area looking for resources, looking for help. And if they're turned away from there, where are they going to go?
So they're worried that people will drive there, not get the services, and then instead of driving back to wherever they were, just sort of live there now on the street?
Pretty much. Either that, or if they walk up to there and then they get turned away, it's going to take some time for them to walk somewhere else where they need resources, or walk back to the courtyard, which is miles away.
Yeah. I mean, are they seeing that sort of pattern with people seeking mental health treatment? Because that's, from my understanding, that's kind of a major spot for mental health. I don't know. I mean, Las Vegas is so bad at providing mental health services, but I understand there's a lot that are offered in that specific campus right now. Do they have that problem now, the neighbors?
They don't. Mostly because the people who, the teenagers or the youth who end up there, they typically go through the juvenile justice system, or there's a forensic facility, which is even a bigger concern from neighbors. So there's a forensic facility there that houses about more than 100 inmates who have severe mental health issues. They need help. They need rehabilitation. We've done stories on that as well. It helps them restore competency. They need the help. And a proposal that was passed by the state to fund an expansion would double it in size. And neighbors are concerned that when this place doubles in size, this is completely separate than the Campus for Hope.
Yeah.
They're concerned that if an inmate escapes and they're dangerous, what then? And I've inquired with the state about this, and they said, we have tight mental health security. We have a desperate need for mental health for inmates. And in fact, the state mental health system has been penalized by the feds for not having the resources they need to give people who are in need.
Yeah, a whole nother topic that I would love to talk to you about sometime soon, Jacqueline. But I do wonder, what is the best argument that you have heard that this facility is necessary for our community, irrespective of where it's going to be, that this is the good hope for hope, right?
And as I was mentioning, we needed a solution yesterday. We needed beds yesterday. The problem keeps on growing. There's only 900 beds would make a dent. It would make a huge dent. It would take about a fourth of the people that are on the streets on any given night out of their cars, out of couch surfing, out of the streets. I'm not the judge of where's the best place to go, but I do hear residents. I hear their concerns. I hear their fears. They have said that they've been told to live with the consequences of whatever happens. And so they felt they had no choice but to take an extra step and file a suit for an injunction. And they're still waiting at this point for any dates or how to proceed. But the state passed a law this past session that would essentially take away any permitting needed by the state and expedite the process for construction. And it would be all overseen by Public Works in the city of Las Vegas.
Yeah, and this exists in the city of Las Vegas. I guess that's worth noting that this is physically in the boundary of the city of Las Vegas. Jacqueline, in that lawsuit, I noticed that City Councilman Brian Knutson specifically was named as a defendant. What's his position on this? I mean, the city is going to have to kick in money too, and it's in their jurisdiction. So what does Brian Knutson tell you about this project and the response to the neighbors' lawsuit?
Brian Knutson has been helping with town halls, meeting with any neighbors that have been concerned. He has been saying this is a solution, this is what's needed. It's going to be a place that's going to look more like apartments. I did an in-depth interview with him as well, and he hears residents' concerns. He understands, but he is a backer of the project, and he supports the project and what it offers to the community. But residents feel like, as a representative of them, as somebody who represents his district, that they should be able to speak to their concerns. And right now, they don't feel like they're being heard.
Yeah. I can understand why Knudsen would want that. He came on this podcast and he gave the Courtyard downtown a C+ rating. So I imagine he's just very desperate to look for something else, but they're going to be double paying. They're going to be paying for the Courtyard. And from my understanding, all the municipalities have to kick in money for the services. The resort industry is not committed to keeping those services going, just the $100 million for the building of it. Is that fair?
Yeah, that is correct. That every jurisdiction in Southern Nevada who is going to utilize it, or the homeless in their jurisdiction, they will have to kick in some money towards it. So it'd be the county, it'd be the city of Henderson, it'd be North Las Vegas. But they all have to contribute some money towards the annual expenditures.
Yeah. And so the resort industry is kind of being criticized for being, I don't know, one and done here with that capital investment. And in the lawsuit, they're getting accused of simply wanting to get rid of homeless people off of the Strip and putting them somewhere far, far away so that tourists don't have to see them. What do you make of that criticism?
You know, I hear that. And also, you could say on the flip side that the resorts are putting their money where their mouth is. They don't want homelessness in their area, so they're helping fund a solution. So I know that the various resorts do have arms for helping the community, do have branches. And so I hear both sides.
Yeah. So I guess the ultimate question to ask about this lawsuit, do you think this is a traditional NIMBY-YIMBY debate, or does it go beyond the tension of good for all but bad for small, if you know what I mean? Is there more nuance, or is this the just age-old resistance to social services being in residential neighborhoods?
I think what's interesting about the Campus for Hope is we haven't seen something like this here. It hasn't been duplicated in many parts of the country. Is it a bit of NIMBYism? Possibly, but it's also an extreme fear of the unknown because it is something very different. It's going to be something very different for Southern Nevada in an area with dire needs. And a lot of residents are going to be concerned about the repercussions of what's available because there's not very many available. Now in the public, there's nicknames for it. There's the Courtyard. There's Campus for Hope. Those are nicknames, so to speak, or names that people are going to think of when they're in need. So what is that going to translate to practically? Even though the Campus for Hope isn't going to welcome everybody, what's it going to look like? And there's so many unknowns there.
Yeah, I mean, and they won't be known, Jacqueline, for quite a while because, you know, we don't really know the metrics. The Courtyard's been operating for a very long time. I haven't seen a really good report on how much homelessness has been eradicated because of it. And we do see the numbers rising. I looked at Haven for Hope, say what are the criticisms of that back in San Antonio? And one of the major criticisms is that less than 15% of people who have gone through that program find permanent housing. So these are big challenges. I guess to wrap up, what happens now? I mean, what are the headlines we're going to be seeing in the near future about this project?
I am waiting and anticipating for the court date, what a judge is going to say. Can this injunction go forward? Is it going to delay any construction? Because the state wants this to move forward ASAP. So do leaders across the valley. They want beds for the people who need it right now and who needed it yesterday. And so a lot is going to hinge on where this court hearing goes from there. Can construction proceed at this point? And right now, it's a waiting period.
Well, Jacqueline Schultz, I really appreciate your coverage on this very important topic for our community. And thank you so much for coming on CityCast Las Vegas.
Thank you so much.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, please go tell a friend. You could also rate the show with the stars wherever you're listening. You could leave us a review there too. And also, please subscribe to our morning newsletter. You will thank me. Trust it. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.